Da, 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 da. Okay, what the frick was that? Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another month of whatever the frick this is. You know what I'm saying. I don't think that I've really filmed much in here. And by film much, I mean I filmed in that seat like several months ago once. At the beginning of quarantine, I had this extra room down here, and so I was like, you know what would be kind of cool if I just turn this into a freaking office and put like a seat, like a desk, and like this extra bookshelf. And so here it is. And I was like, I'm gonna film in here, and it'll be easy to do stuff, and I'll have like all my equipment in one space, so I won't have to like break it down all the time. Then I filmed once in here, and then the echo was like awful, and like I don't know how to fix that, so I haven't been filming in here like all at all. So, but anyways, the topic for this month that was picked was to draft a bad boy book, and this was picked by one of my $10 patrons. And this topic, I was really excited that it won because it's been like floating around on the poll for like a hot freaking minute. And so it like never won for a really long time, and it finally did, so I guess that's kind of exciting. So basically what I did was I just took the liberty of spending a lot of time like literally writing like actually like a book about this, which is honestly like kind of upsetting. But I spent like a really freaking long time on this. I've been writing this for like literal days, just writing down ideas and stuff. And like looking back, there isn't that much, which on my part is pretty embarrassing because I said that I've been working on this for days, but it's like hard to write a freaking book. The draft is called No Bad Boys in This House. And I didn't write this down in the notes, but what would my ghostwriter name be? It'd probably be Kayla, just because that's kind of like my name, but if it was a woman, Kayla Strong. So the first thing I knew was that I needed a bad boy, obviously, because what the frick. And his name is Jackson McGruff. But Jackson McGruff is a rugged man with a shady past. Potentially, he is sad, but we are not so sure. That's what I wrote down in the notes. I think that a majority of this is just going to be me like straight reading it. So sorry about that, but I'll try to elaborate. All we need to know for now is that he is bad and that he sometimes wears leather. Not in a sexual way, but also in a sexual way. You know what I'm saying? Then we have Sasha Silver. She is a waitress at a diner and has been working very hard to provide for her elderly father who is dying from dementia. I don't know much about dementia and I didn't think to research it. I don't care to research it. Does that seem insensitive? I don't know if it does, but I wrote her dad's name is Dean. The book starts out with Sasha Silver serving food to a few people in her restaurant. The restaurant is called Lakeshore Bar and Grill, and it makes no sense, but it will be called by name Lakeshore for the entire book. So at the restaurant, she goes to serve a sexy boy. She notes that he looks like he is quite bad, because he's wearing leather jacket and he's wearing sunglasses inside. She takes his order and he orders a scotch. She laughs but says there is no alcohol. Lakeshore doesn't sell booze. He pushes the bit for far too long, saying that he wants alcohol. He keeps being like, sis, give me a freaking shot. I want tequila. Give me rum. I am an alcoholic. And she's just like, ha ha ha, you're so bad. He's a bad boy. And so she's like, many pages later, is like, okay, like, what the frick do you want? And he said, I'll get something manly, like a sandwich or like a black coffee or something. And so she like serves him his food or whatever. He's there alone, of course, because he has no friends and he is quite bad. At that exact moment, a couple at this restaurant starts to give Sasha a hard freaking time. And so the couple like storms out. They don't give her a tip. And she starts to clean the table and she looks really freaking upset. And she thanks Jackson, of course. And so Jackson is trying to talk with her and she keeps turning him away and is like cleaning the table and whatever the frick. Jackson finishes his food and this is freaking important, y'all. But Jackson leaves like the little like receipt or whatever, and in place of the tip, he writes his phone number, which is supposed to be sexy, but also like kind of a bad boy move because he's not giving her a real tip. But what I imagine is that the tip he will be giving her is his pee-pee. So later on, and maybe a couple chapters later, Sasha is talking about how sad she is and how she just is so independent. And then at that exact moment, she is pining over how sexy Jackson is, and she is wet, is what I wrote underneath that. The next day, Sasha goes to the diner again because it's her job, of course, at Lakeshore. She spends all morning like walking dogs and like doing all her other dumb jobs, and then it's her job to close the diner Lakeshore. So she's doing that and she's there all by herself. And then randomly like a shipment of like food comes in, and so they like bring it, and then she's like, I'll put it in the freezer. And guess what? The freezer freaking locks her in there. And so she's like, oh no, I'm here by myself and I'm locked in here. What do I do? Okay. And so conveniently, there is a phone in the freezer. I don't know why, but that seems like the type of weird coincidence that one of these books needs, so I'm cool with it. So basically, she's like, oh no, I need to call someone. So she thinks like, I'll call my mom, but then she realizes her mom's dead, and then she's like, oh, maybe I'll call my dad, but he has dementia. And so she's just like, wow, I'm really going through it, man. I need to call someone, but she doesn't have anyone's number memorized. For some reason, she doesn't have her phone in her pocket. So she's like, oh no, I don't have anybody's number. Who do I call? And then she's like, wait a second. She reaches in her little like apron thing for being a waitress, and guess whose phone number is in there? It's the bad boy. So what she does is she calls the number and she says, help me, I'm in the freezer. And then he storms over in his like cool white boy car. Jackson's POV shows him on the phone with her, and he keeps saying weird things about how like he's gonna save her life, like this woman is trapped and I am going to save her. It's stupid and dumb. So he's all being self-righteous about saving her, and he reaches the diner and opens the freezer for her. He says that she needs to take the night off and stay with him because she's traumatized, and she's like, no the frig I'm not. But he's like, you were in there. You must be so cold. I need to take you to my bed and get you warm. You probably are shaking. Maybe even you have hypothermia. You need to come to my house and I will warm you up. I have a fireplace. And so he takes her to his house. She tries saying no several times, but he ignores her. They go out together. Sexy. Sasha opens up while they're together about her father and all the jobs that she has to work. She's like a dog walker, maybe like a barista. Maybe she has a lemonade stand, I don't know. And then Jackson says weird, heartless things like, wow, that must be so hard for you. And mentions his own father's death. But he's also very shady about it, where he's just like, wow, that reminds me of my father. But my father is dead, so... Of course he tries to make it about himself, but his father is dead and he is shady about it, which is important. Anyways, at this exact moment, we cut to a flashback. It's in italics, of course, so it shows Jackson as a child, and he's playing outside in his yard with like maybe like a plane. And anyways, at that exact moment, the dad showed up, and then the dad is like got like a briefcase, and he's all angry, and he walks up and he says, idiot, and he punches his son in the face. I'll read it the way I wrote it. His dad comes home from work and punches him in the face and says, in all caps, pour me a drink, Martha, and runs inside. Jackson cries. I hate to make light of abuse, but I've said this before, but the way that abuse happens in these books is always so freaking ridiculous, and there's zero nuance to it at all, which I don't expect, but it is really funny when you've read several of these books before. The dads become less and less like actual father figures and more like a freaking clown, where they're just like, you suck, I hate you, you are a terrible son, and it's like, okay, let's move on. Like, what the frick? Jackson is sad, but we never ever get in-text moments where he says that he's sad. I don't know. They drive to his house, and when they get inside, Sasha notices that the house is super fancy, super like luxury and nice. And so Jackson mentions that his sister is a novelist, and she writes smut and that she's made a fortune, but she died from murder. And so Sasha's like, wow, that's kind of weird. Is it awkward that your sister wrote all these weird smutty sex books before she was murdered? And he's like, no, not really, but it is also ridiculous. He says that he's read the books and that the girls have no backbone and that the men are borderline abusive. And Sasha agrees and says that he is not like the other guys because he thinks that abuse is bad. That scene is supposed to be ironic because he's saying he doesn't like these things, but anyways, in the following scene, they have sex and it is borderline non-consensual and abusive. See, I made sure to note that. There are descriptions of sex things and without context, they make no sense. Then what I did is I put a couple of sentences, like quotes that would be written in the book, and I just wrote them without context, so I'll read them for you now. He was a rod. She moaned like a damn cat, scuffling under the covers. Slow, long, and hard. I guess I didn't write this, but I just assume that there was a scene before they banged where she was like, I don't want to bang you. And then he was like, but guess what? My whole family was murdered. Anyways, now from this point on, all they do is bang. Sasha says to some random white friend of hers the next day, of course she's white because I've read several of these books and there are never any black characters at all, but she tells her white friend the next day that she got banged. Is it banged or bung? I know it's banged, but bung is just really the word I want to exist so bad. But she got bunged by the bad boy. Maybe that is the alternate title. And so she mentions that she got bung, but then the white woman is like, wow, he is such a troublemaker. She maybe went to high school with him because there's always that type of character where she was like, in high school, he was so bad. But it's like, he's freaking 30 now. Shut up. What are you talking about? Anyways, in the next scene, Jackson visits the graveyard of his dead family who were murdered. He's like sitting there and he's like, I can't believe you guys got murdered. But he's acting all kind of weird because he's still bad. So he's not being emotional. He's just like, damn, man, they are dead. I didn't write how they got murdered or how he found that they were murdered. But he just like found them and they were dead. So that's really sad for him. Sasha is working at the bar that she works, because she works at the bar also. So she's at a bar now instead of the diner. It's messy, and I wish I could say it was on purpose, but I just am bad at writing. He stumbles in all drunk, and she's like, what's going on? He's like, it's the anniversary of when they were murdered. And he's like so drunk. He's stumbling. He's like this when he walks in. I'll show you how it happened. They were murdered many, many years ago on this very day. Sasha says wait, what the frick? She asks him what's going on. He says his parents were murdered many years ago and he is sad. He is clearly not in a good mental state, but they bang on the bar counter instead since the bar is closing and nobody's in there. It's really late and he's drunk and they're in the bar because she works there. It's supposed to be rapey. And like, is that consensual? No, but it's hot because he's sad and she made him feel better. Here are the lines that would be written in this scene. I wrote, softly stuttered her name, Sasha. But also drunk, so he's like, Sasha. I don't know how drunk people talk. Then I wrote, drunkenly sexing her front. And then I wrote, he was palming her boobie. But I misspelled boobie. Anyways, so they go to his house and they do it many is in all caps. They do it many more times. They do it 5 times. And I would assume that it would be like a fade to black. But it's one chapter where they're at the bar. And then the next chapter they drive to his house and they do it again. And then again, all on screen. And within like 10 pages of each other, they've done it like at least 5 times. The next day, Sasha wakes up and there's a missed call from a random number on her phone. And turns out that her dead dad, Dean, is dead. It says unimportant detail, but his hairline is so far back and he is so gross. I imagine, and I don't say this because he has dementia, but I'm just saying, homeboy, his hairline is like literally back here. And I just imagine he's like one of those old people that got like this super gross hairy body, and he's just sitting there like with his little tummy out. But he also has dementia, which is kind of sad. But he's just like sitting there, and he's like, and he's not sitting like that because he has dementia, but because he's also probably an alcoholic. This character is just so ingrained in my mind where he's just like, Sasha. Like, he's bitter. He's bitter because his wife was probably killed in some accident. Okay, so now that the dad is freaking dying, she and Jackson, of course, needs to show up. They rush to her home, or I guess it would be like the hospital or like the nursing home where he lives or something, because he has dementia, so he's in the nursing home. But in order for him to live in the nursing home, she has to work several jobs to pay for his medical stuff, but also the nursing home. Like, after maybe, like, they have, like, an exchange of dialogue where she's like, Daddy, don't die. And then he's like, beep. And then she's like, no, he's dead. And then he's just dead for the rest of the book. That's actually so upsetting. And so it says, Sasha cries, and Jackson tries to be sympathetic. But he's just like, ooh, girl, I'm so sorry about that. He is not consoling at all. Maybe he's like, puts his arm around her, and then we get a description of dialogue where it's like, he wrapped his big, sexy arms around her. Anyways, so Jackson is like, this is so upsetting that Dean is dead from dementia. So he's like, you know what we need to do? He said, listen, Sasha, I'll make you feel better. She's crying, okay? She literally was holding her father, Dean's hand, as he died and flatlined in front of her. And I just imagine, even though he died from, like, dementia, I just imagine that they made it as dramatic as possible, where they're like... Like, even though I feel like they don't do that for that type of medical thing, like, he's just dead, you know? But I just imagine they're like, he's still with us! He's still with us! And then he comes back to life, and then she's like, Dean, it's me, your daughter, 'cause you died from dementia. And it just becomes like the longest alliteration ever. She's like, your dead dad, Dean, who died from dementia. Your daughter, Diana. Her name should have been Diana, what the frig. He was resurrected, and then he dies again. And she's like, no, my dead dad, Dean, died from dementia twice. Dose. Dead dad Dean died from dementia dose times. The nurse is Hispanic, and so they're bilingual. They speak Spanish and English. So what I'm thinking is, in this crazy situation, this bilingual nurse accidentally goes back into Spanish for one word, and she said, Dean is dying of dementia, so we give him doses of dementia dying drug. It goes on for so long. And as it goes on, the alliteration just gets more and more effed up. And everybody is crying. This man flatlines several times. And so now he's finally dead. Dead dad Dean died one last time. She's really sad. And so for some reason, Jackson takes this as a moment to like console her. And so I think of like that scene in the Christmas book, I don't even remember what it's called, Bad Boy for Christmas, that scene where like she finds out that she's not actually pregnant after wanting to be pregnant for whatever the frig reason. I don't remember, it was a long time ago. But after that scene, like she finds out she's not pregnant, and then it's like they have sex after, and it's like a heartwarming thing, even though it's kind of like weird and unsettling because she was crying. That was the context of that one, but I just imagine this scene is framed in the same way. So she's crying that her dad is dead, and he's like, it'll be okay, and he like carries her to like a storage closet, and then they have sex. Dead dad Dean's daughter gets digged down in the storage closet. I just imagine they're like doing it or whatever in the storage closet. And it says like, he moved his hips and his pleasure filled her grief. At the funeral of dead dad Dean, they go together for no damn reason at all. Sasha delivers a eulogy about how sad she is and how he was an old man and that now he is dead. Everyone cries, and Jackson thinks about how sexy her underwear is under her dress. After this scene, we never hear about dead dad Dean again. Jackson says a comment about how now that her dead dad Dean is dead, she can quit one of her jobs since she no longer needs the income. This is written as a triumphant revelation. We cut to Jackson POV, and he is at work doing something with cars. I don't know what it is, but he is with a car. We have never seen him at work or heard him mention work, but he is at work now. Some random white man asks if he is really banging that Silver girl, the Silver's daughter Sasha. I wrote, he says something vague about getting banged. I don't know. I was imagining him being like, oh, I'm so worn out from all that bunging we've been up to. The man says, do you love her? For no friggin' reason. And Jackson randomly starts freaking out. He's like, I have to go. And he like leaves work for no reason. This guy's like, what the frick? Okay. We're getting paid by the hour and you didn't clock out, so I don't know what that's about. Anyways, so randomly, Sasha is at work and Jackson appears. He asks her if she loves him. And she says she isn't sure, since all they've done is bang. Jackson calls her a snake ass bitch and leaves. He says, to bang or to be bung. I don't know what that means, but now they are broke up. Several hours later, Jackson comes to Sasha's apartment and says that he is sorry for saying whatever the hell he said. They bang after. He says she loves him, and he says that he does too, which is a big deal because he never loved anyone. Since his parents were abusive, he never loved them, but they were also murdered. And then I wrote, it's at this moment that the reader starts to question if Jackson murdered his abusive parents, but we never hear much more about that. That's the idea I'm laying down here, is that this bad boy Jackson McGruff had abusive family, and like under some shady circumstances, all of them are dead, and it's just mentioned in passing, like, yeah, they were murdered, or like, yeah, my sister was a sexy book writer, but she was murdered long ago. But they were murdered, and he just spends the whole book like telling people how sad he is about that, and like he's crying over their grave, not because he's sad, but because he feels guilt. They say sorry. Maybe he murdered his family. He loves her. He never loved anyone. His family is murdered. Maybe he did it. We don't know. They decide to get married, even though they barely know each other. Jackson says something about having kids, and then Sasha mentions something strange. She took a pregnancy test, and it is positive because they had so much raw sex, and now she is pregnant, because who would have guessed? But then we have an epilogue. It says 1 year later. It says, Sasha has the babies. They are quintuplets because of that one night when they had sex 5 times. I don't know the science of how quintuplets work. I know that like you don't have to do it several times to have quintuplets. It's just about whatever the frick, but I just imagine like the author's like, because they had sex 5 times, they made 5 babies. I wrote, maybe they have a TLC show based on the quintuplets and their life. And then I wrote, one of the babies' names is Dean. And then it says Jackson mentions how sexy one of their girl babies is. And then after this, we get a second epilogue. It says 18 years later. That sexy girl baby is now 18 years old and very bangable now. Sasha mentions that she's probably going to get banged very soon by a bad boy. Jackson says, no bad boys in this house. It's funny because that's the title of the book. It's called No Bad Boys in This House. And he says that at the end. And it's probably in italics and it's capitalized. Sasha says that there already is a bad boy in this house, and she winks at Jackson McGruff. And they have sex one last time in graphic detail. And then I wrote the lines that they would have written in the sex scene. It says, he humped her baby-making pouch, because the quintuplets really stretched it out, I imagine. And it says, it was flappy from the quintuplets. And then it says, if you give me the rest of the night, I'll make you another set of quints. That was the last line of the book is, I'll make you another set of quints if you give me the night. The end. I would just like to say, first of all, I'm sorry. So that was it. I hope you enjoyed. If not, what the frick. Okay, so I decided that I want to do something maybe a little bit new this month, and that is tell you some of my monthly favorites, which to me is just an excuse to tell you about things that nobody cares about, honestly. Like, I wish I could just talk about like all the TV shows and music and my thoughts and stuff, and then sometimes I'll like put it in the universe where I'm like, do you want me to talk about this thing? And then everyone's always like, no. So I'm going to talk about some music and some TV, and then we're going to talk about upcoming videos that I am going to be maybe filming soon. I don't know what happened, but there was some weird point in quarantine. I don't know if I was just sad, but now I'm a Lana stan. I'm going to tell you some of my favorite songs this month that I've been listening to. I really like the Mariners apartment complex. That's probably one of my favorites of all time. I really like the part where she said, I'm gonna open up Spotify right now. It's my favorite part. Catch a wave and take in the sweetness. That song freaking slaps. I like this song a lot because it's almost 1 year since NFR came out. And although I said that I just decided back in maybe like April or May to become a Lana stan, I listened to NFR when it had first come out because that was like the week I moved into school. And so like I was low-key just wanting like to distract myself from like my own tears at that point. I was like spending my first time on campus and I was like listening to this music, and I remember I was listening to this one night as I was walking home from the gym, and I just remember like it was a weird like moment where I was listening to music and I was walking on campus, and it was like pretty late, so it was like sunset hour and there like weren't a lot of people outside, and I just had this moment where I was like, maybe everything is gonna be all right in the end. And turns out that was a lie, but I felt that way, and now whenever I hear this song I feel that way too, so that's pretty cool. I've been listening to Florida Kilos, the one about Coke. I've been listening to SZA lately. I think it's because I've been looking for like some fun summer vibes. I hate the fact that I just said that, but I just like to listen to like upbeat music all of a sudden. I don't know what that's about. And then also a song called Sweep Me Off My Feet by a band. I don't know if they're a band or like a guy or whatever the frick, but they're called Ponds. Or just Pond, singular Pond. I'll play you a sneak peeky. As you can tell by this music choice, I've really been feeling like the main character these days. Maybe it's because I feel like I'm like, something good is coming, you know what I feel it so deeply. But last time I felt that way, it went to hell so quickly. So I do want to mention, because I'm freaking pissed, Folklore by Taylor Swift. I'm not a fan of Taylor Swift. I'm not like a hater, but I do like to listen to her music when it comes out because she has some songs that I've enjoyed. When she announced her album, I was really excited. And I listened to it like the second it came out, and I was like actually like hyped for it all day because everybody kept saying like she said it's influenced by Lana, and so I was like, this is the only thing about to get me through this. Like I was excited to hear that style from her. I was expecting like a Venice bitch type of a feel, you know, where it's like 10 freaking minutes where you're just like, you know what I'm saying? If you don't know what I'm saying, you're probably so confused, but I was excited for some of those vibes and some of the like melancholy type like doo. It means nothing when I say it, but if you've heard the song, you know what I'm saying. But I was eager for that, and I was actually like hated like most of the songs, and like there would be songs where I thought they would be good, and then like the lyrics ruined it. Like I would like the production of certain songs. There's a song called Epiphany, and when I first heard it, the sort of sounds at the beginning was like, it reminded me a lot of Florence and the Machine and The End of Love, how it starts with like that sort of like orchestra and it like builds and builds and then it like calms and it's like she starts singing. It started out like that and I was like, she's about to slap, And then the second she opened her mouth, it sounded like the Who's in freaking Whoville. I'm gonna play it for you. Oh my gosh. Listen to this. Listen to the production on this, y'all. Like, I'm ascending. And then I am going back down. Keep you. You know what that sounds like? The freaking Grinch, where it's like, ha he, yaw he, yaw. No. And then she like peeks the mic. I just realized I don't like her songwriting that much because it's very much like, she was walking down the street and she saw him and she bought shoes. And you're like, what the frick? That's stupid. But the songs I liked were Illicit Affairs, This Is Me Trying, Exile, and the song August. There's a couple other ones that I tolerate, but that's it. The Grinch. Whose song? Ha he, yaw he. Because they gather around the tree and they say, ha he, yaw he. I haven't heard this in a decade, but I literally nailed it. Maybe not. Wait, we need to go back. Yeah, it's friggin' Who sounding is what that is. Anyways, I wrote down a TV category, but I literally only have Survivor on this list. I like Survivor a lot. Nobody friggin' knows that, but I'm a friggin' stan. I'm trying to get on that show. Anyway, so let's talk about what's coming up next, and sort of my video plans. Jeez. Okay, so I've been trying to film this video for a hot second now. I tried to film it the other day, but I'll be honest, I was feeling really weird. I have these moments sometimes where I try to film something and I will like not be in a good headspace, where I'll just have a lot on my mind. And like this past week, I've had so much on my mind. Like I've been ready to film it for a majority of this week. And so I was like, I'll film it on Monday. But then like I just had this weird thing, and maybe it's because there was like a COVID outbreak at my school. Like a small outbreak. We're talking like a dozen people got it, which like isn't crazy. And I know some schools have it like way worse. But for some reason, hearing that in my head, I think hearing that like crushed this weird reality I was creating in my head, where like I was gonna go back and the numbers were gonna keep going down and everything was gonna be fine and like the semester would be perfectly normal and like every issue in my life would be gone. I do that way too much, where I'm like, everything will be fine. And then it's not, and then I'm disappointed. But I think that that's just been on my mind, where it's like, great, now I'm going to be home for another 6 months. And like, I hate to say it, but like, I'm like I've been like way too sad and lonely to put up with that for another 6 months. Who knows what's about to go down, but that's been on my head. And as a result of that, the video that I've been working on keeps like, I have a hard time filming it. I have everything ready for it, so when I do film it, it'll be a pretty quick turnaround, and I will be like sharing clips and stuff. The video is actually one that I'm really excited for. It's called I watched every The Fault in Our Stars ripoff, where I watched like all the stupid young adult movies where it's ripoff of The Fault in Our Stars. So there's The Fault in Our Stars video coming up next, but then after that, I've been toying with this idea for a hot minute, and I feel like I'm gonna say what it is, and everybody is gonna be like, freaking do it, it'll be so funny. But honestly, I don't think it's gonna be funny. And that is the fact that I want to react to this freaking TV show called Confess. And if you don't know what that is, it's a TV show based off of Colleen Hoover's book called Confess. And so for some reason I forgot that that was a thing. I didn't know it was a thing. And I was like, it would be so funny if I watched this and reacted to it. And I'm talking like a genuine reaction where I will not have watched it beforehand. And so I wasn't even like really sure what the show was. I didn't know anything about it. So what I did is I'll be honest, even though like the video was supposed to be me like watching it for the first time and giving my thoughts, I watched like 15 minutes of it because there's like, I don't know, 8 or 9 episodes of like a 20-minute show. So I watched like a couple minutes. It's like so awful, and not funny awful. Like the acting is just like really slow with bad dialogue. Not a lot of action or like smutty stuff really. And so as a result of that, it's like, do I want to do that just for me to be like, the writing is bad? Like I want to be like laughing at them having sex, you know? So maybe I'll see that. Maybe I'll like sort of click through a couple episodes, see if it gets good. I'm not sure. From what I've already clicked through a little bit, it just seems really boring and hallmarky. That was what was supposed to be next, but as I sort of looked into the show more, I didn't think so. But then I thought also maybe frick. I thought maybe what I would do is, because it's been nearly 4 years since I read my first Colleen Hoover book, and since it's been nearly 3 years, has it been nearly 3 years? Yeah, it's almost been 3 years since I did my video where I reread a Colleen Hoover book, or like gave her a second chance or whatever the freak that video was. Maybe I would read another one of her books, and I don't know how I feel about that because I feel like everybody would immediately be like, you're doing that for views, right? And honestly, yeah, I'm more doing it because although in both of those videos, or in the second chance video, I was like, I'm giving her a chance, you know? Like, I was just such an unreliable narrator in that, I feel like, where I was just like, not trying to get mad, but also there were certain things that weren't necessarily a big deal. But because I already had this like mixed relationship, I was like, this is abuse. When like maybe it was just like badly written dialogue, you know what I'm saying? So I feel like I was a little bit unreliable. And so I'm not just gonna read like a stupid one of her romance books. What I wanted to do was maybe read the thriller novel that she wrote a couple years ago, because I read the like description of it and it sounds pretty good, honestly. And I think what it would be called is I read Colleen Hoover's thriller novel and I am in fact scared. But also what I've been thinking about is doing a video where I like reread, and this might be boring and stupid, and so if you think this is dumb, let me know. But I thought it'd be funny if I did a video where I like reread books from my childhood that I liked a lot and just like doing stupid book reviews for them. Like I'm talking like this book right here that I have where it's called Caleb Crosses the Country and it's about a freaking camel. Like childhood books like this, but also like Magic Treehouse. But it would be like sassy and stupid, maybe throw in some goosebumps. I don't know, like stupid books like that. But I do remember that the reason why I have this book is because like a family friend bought it for me because it was my name. And it's about a donkey though. So I think unintentionally they're calling me like an ass, honestly. But this book is like a biblical book about like a camel, but like it's Jesus' birth, but a camel. After that, if you heard any of those ideas and you want to see one more than the others, let me know. And also, I'm just gonna say it, if y'all ever got ideas that you want me to do, a movie you want me to react to, I've been thinking about doing that too. So yeah, that was it for this month. I hope that you all had a really fun July. I hope that you're all being safe. Please wear a freaking mask, you snakes. And also, if you are a $10 patron, I'm gonna put the requests like the second after I freaking post this. So y'all better give me freaking requests, because sometimes people don't post anything. And I'm like, what the freak is going on? But no, I'm just kidding. I love you. But please do that. Okay, so thank you. I'll see you soon with a video, hopefully, unless I have another freaking mental breakdown. But love you. Okay, bye. Maybe this is just like month freaking 4 or 5 of quarantine talking, but why am I thinking about getting my nose pierced? Like, I went into quarantine being like, I want to get a tattoo on my side. And then that quickly faded away because my mental breakdown kind of stopped then. And so then I like moved on. I was like, I don't want any tattoos at all. I was like, I'm done getting tattooed. I was like, well, I guess after this tattoo, I'm done getting tattoos. So that's the end of that. But then I was like, what if? Right freaking there. I think I'd get a little hoop. I feel like it'd be cute. Maybe it's because I took this selfie the other day and I was like, you know what would make that picture look cuter? A freaking hole in my face.